This is BoomerLife on CISL 650.
You made me so very happy. I'm so glad you came into my life.
And welcome back to the show on CISL 650. I'm Zach Spencer, and today we're talking about, change in lifestyle as you get a little bit older and maybe thinking about your plans for the future. With us from ElementLifestyle Retirement is Candy Ho, Vice President Marketing and Corporate Relations, and Dr. John Gilbert, Independent Director, ElementLifestyle. Now, we talked a little bit before the break, touched on a little bit about keeping families together, but let's just get into the numbers. We are now at this... They call it the baby boomers because it's a big bubble of people that are going to fully be retired in 15 years. So I'm right on the cusp of that. I'm a first-year Gen Xer. This is a big challenge for society, isn't it? All of these people are going to be getting older, and it's a big number. And do you think we're ready for that? That's a loaded question.
I'll let John speak about this. I mean, Dr. Gilbert. Yes.
I think there's a lot of thought being given to the issues, and there are some societies where there is more thought being given than others because the problem is bigger. So in high-income developed countries, this is a huge issue. But if you go to Africa or an Asian country where actually the big block is around 20 to 28.
Really?
It's not at this end of the continuum.
But we can look at Japan that has an older...
But when you could look at Japan and, certainly China, which has, all those single, family, the single child. Policy. Yeah, and it's a huge, huge issue. I think that it's an almost overwhelming problem for government because there are many, many other issues that are going to be part of this complex of what are we going to do in order to ensure that the receding taxpayer base, is not lumbered with this huge expense. So that's why when I spoke earlier, I said that, the government's faced with, do we build, and let's just not talk about Opal, but just government facilities. Do we build more facilities, more government facilities for the aging? Or do we try to keep people where they are, age at home, provide the care that we can do at home. So there's still...
And sorry to interject, but what do the people want to see? I'm sure most people want to stay in place, right?
I suspect that if you look at the data, that is in fact correct to a certain age.
Right.
But then, probably 75% will say, I can't manage this anymore.
And the loneliness of being at home and waiting for...
Yeah, if you are... But we do have some wonderful organizations in the Lower Mainland that do, kind of away from home for the day. We're going to take you out. We're going to do, So it's a very, very complicated problem, and it's economic, it's political, it's psychological, and I think governments are really trying to get a hand. So just take our city government, Vancouver city government, where there has been a huge amount of work done on the future of the elder population in Vancouver. A very good report, was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago, which dealt with the issue. And so it depends on, as I say, if you're a high-income, developed country, the issues are quite different than if you're in a middle-income or low-income, not developed country. So I had an appointment in Malaysia. It's not the same in Malaysia. I have an appointment in India. It's not the same. I have an appointment in Australia where it is the same. They have the same aging issues. So in answer to your question, it's complicated. A lot of thought is being given to it. We don't have all the answers.
Is there a lot of thought being given to it?
Oh, yeah. There's a
lot of thought, and then because it is so complicated, it's hard to implement any. And
then they just look at the dollars and think this is so expensive. Right?
Well, I don't think it's quite as brutal as that. I do think that there is good thought being given to how, if you have a minimal number of dollars, what can you do best with those dollars in order to manage this problem?
Because we're always hearing that we're going to have this big drain on this system that is going to be uber expensive as the boomer generation gets into their 80s and their 90s.
Well, but you know, the generation is quite different from my parents' generation, and maybe even from me. Well, no, because I'm an exemplar out on the right side of right field, and that is that there is a much greater emphasis in this generation, this Boomer generation, on good nutrition, on exercise, on mental health. You know, so.
We're much more aware of all these things.
We're much more aware, and there's a lot of mythology about, you know, elder people costing the healthcare system a ton of money. It's just not true. It's what we call a zombie exercise.
It's such a sad idea, too. It makes all the elders feel like they're burdening society.
Yes, and in fact, it's not true.
Yeah, actually, but then, you know, talking about the expensive part, there are a lot of elders who end up in hospital when they don't actually need hospital. They don't need a bed in hospital. That's not the kind of care they need. But there is no other, you know, not enough of what we do that is the nursing type of care for elderly challenges, not medical challenges.
That's Candy Ho, Director, Vice President, Marketing and Corporate Relations at ElementLifestyle, and Dr. John Gilbert is our guest. And you've referenced it several times through the show. You refer to people who are older as elders. So talk a little bit about that, just mind shift a little bit from being called seniors to elders.
Well, I am, you know, words mean a lot, right? The kind of word you use to describe somebody, something. And let me give you a very interesting notion that I don't know if you know the Brits very well.
I do.
Their view about aging. But the Brits think about people as old when they're about 56. Ours is, we don't think about that. You know, so you read novels and they're already talking about people being elderly, et cetera. And the notion of senior is one that I don't think rings true with respect to the total piece that people of my age and older provide for society. Senior has kind of one notion associated with it. Elder has a much broader psychological, biological, you know, whatever.
Part of the native sort of culture too, right?
Yes, right. And it's a much broader notion of this person who is still, you know, a functioning member of society, providing something from experience, from all those years of doing whatever. That is not just being a senior, which says, well, you're over the hump and that's it, you know, now you're gone. So I like the term elder because I think it recognizes that the fullness of what it is that we do. I mean, at my age and older than me. And I think that's an important piece. The words are always important because they create the psychological space in the next generation coming up about where they're going to go. And that's who we're aiming at, you know. Opal is saying... And Candace's given some really good examples. They're saying, I want to be part of this continuum of care. I want to be here from the beginning, as it were, you know, when I'm kind of 55 or even with some of the grandchildren. Yeah. And they're saying, I want to be in that continuum of care. So I think elder is a much more embracing notion.
Positive. And
yes,
it has it implies to me wisdom and respect. Yeah.
Now tell us quickly about some of your clients that have come in. You've had some multi-generation families come in and choose to live at Opal by Element. So what's the latest story? You had a big group come in?
A big difference in a lot of the other retirement residences. The average age is 87, and ours right now, we probably about maybe about 70. But the difference is that we are really accommodating younger generations to either stay as guests or visit or actually stay long term, because the rule from government's perspective is that it just needs to be one occupant that is 55 plus.
And 55 isn't that old.
55 is probably half the population. I actually haven't looked at the real statistics or demographics there, but 55 plus is lots of people. But so I have a couple that bought a unit that is big enough to accommodate the grandchildren to stay and the siblings from out of town to stay. And then I also have a lady who was widowed last year. She's 60. She bought a unit for herself that is 2-bedroom that will let her visiting children who live in Ottawa Ottawa and New York to visit with her. She bought a unit for her mom, who's 86 and still very independent. She also reserved a care unit for her father, specifically chose one, even though we're 2 years out, who's 92 and has had type 1 diabetes for many years and has managed on his own, but she's noticing that he's having moments when he doesn't look totally there. So she's really thinking ahead. And when she purchased a unit for herself, and her visiting daughter from Ottawa came and said, "Mom, are you going to get older earlier than you I can't see it. I can't see you moving in." And she's like, "Yeah, Ming, don't worry about it. This is not a rational, spur of the moment decision. I'm thinking long term. I want to be close to your mom. I want to be close to your dad. And, I want to support them and care for them, but not as a nurse that I am not.
Yes.
You know?
Because that is a big burden on the children.
Yeah. I'm going to be there visiting and spending good time with them every day. We don't necessarily have to be living in the same unit. We can still have our personal space, but I'm there enjoying all the activities and amenities every day, surrounded by like-minded people."
All right. We want to get in a little bit of the amenities, because it's quite remarkable what you have planned at Opal by Element. And we'll talk about that next on CISL 650.
Canada's only weekly radio show dedicated to the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CISL 650.